A well-regulated militia, being necessary for the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. It's in our Constitution. We don't need a reason to own firearms. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It is Nicholas Renner here. Going to be reviewing or commentary on reacting to an Australian comedian's take on gun control. So this is going to be a reaction video. If you don't like when people pause and then resume, this is how they avoid copyright for a reaction video. If you don't like that, then go watch the original videos on TikTok. You just look up gun control. I actually don't know this person. I saw it on TikTok looking up gun control. I saw it, wanted to review it, react on it, start the video. And if you haven't already, like, comment, subscribe, hit that bell notification to see more pro gun news, see more gun control arguments that I go over. I give my take on it. I personally put historical context in the midst of that and pretty much debunk what a lot of these people's claims are in historical context and what the Second Amendment actually means and what it was meant for. So let's get into it.
Start saying this, I want to say this, right? I believe in your right as Americans to have guns. I'm not trying to stop you from having guns. All I'm saying is this is my personal belief on the opinion.
So a lot of people, they say, we're not trying to stop you to have guns. We're not trying to stop you, okay? We just don't want you having these certain guns. We don't want you having so-called assault weapons. So I was watching the Steven Crowder. I might react to it where he's interviewing these people out on the street, and one of the people are like, we need to ban fully automatics, we need to ban all this different stuff, and Steven goes over and he tells him, hey, fully automatics are pretty much banned already, okay? So a lot of these people are completely misinformed already on the subject, and they're willing to take away law-abiding citizens' gun rights being on misinformation, not even knowing the subject. And this guy's from Australia, from what it sounds like. So they had their gun buyback, and he goes into talking about it.
My opinion on the it doesn't matter. I don't like guns, right? I'm going to say some things that are just facts, right? In Australia, we had guns, right? Right up until 1996. And in 1996...
Yeah, and in Australia, during the disease, you guys pretty much rolled over. A lot of there's places like Canada and Australia that were pretty much subjects of the British Empire that rolled over, okay? And you can't really compare two different cultures, a culture that rolled over to a culture that didn't roll over, beat the biggest superpower in the whole entire world, and then became the biggest superpower in the whole entire world.
Australia had the biggest massacre on earth. Still hasn't been beaten. And now, after that, they banned the guns. Now, in the 10 years before Port Arthur, there was 10 massacres. Since the gun ban in 1996, there hasn't been a single massacre since. I don't know how or why this happened.
So you can't compare countries with different ethnic backgrounds, with different population densities, with different cultures to tie that in together. So you still have knife crime, you still have stabbings, okay? So you look at Great Britain, ban guns. They're not having these mass shootings all the time, but you can't walk down the street without getting stabbed. Wearing a watch, it's a very expensive watch, you know, it can be the same thing said here in the United States in a lot of these blue cities. So what's the point here? He's trying to make this argument that, oh, he's trying to joke around about it, that we banned the guns and now we haven't had this mass shooting ever since, okay? Well, in the United States, the Second Amendment is a right. It's not something that the government gives us. It's enshrined in our Constitution as an inalienable right, meaning they don't give us the privilege that is given to us by the Constitution, by God. And in the Steven Crowder video, the guy actually started out as wanting to ban all firearms. With a lot of these leftists, you know, they try to play the boil and frog effect. They try to play we're going to play a more intelligent role here. We can't take them all. But then the guy in that video, he takes a step back and says, oh, we got to please everybody. Well, this is, you cannot control it. You cannot compare the United States to Australia. The United States is a melting pot. And why are all the toughest gun control states in the big blue cities have the highest crime? With the highest gun violence? Why in places like Albany, New York City, all these different places, okay, Chicago, they have it's because the culture's there, okay? And why is there always news reports of gun manufacturing, ghost guns? They just get their guns. Why in Japan was there an attempt on the Prime Minister's life? He was shot actually with a homemade firearm in a place where they banned pretty much every firearm. So you cannot make that comparison, okay? You can look at places that ban guns. They're all conservative Christians and they have no crime. To say that, oh, they don't have any guns, they're completely, that the guns were the main thing. You cannot do that. And there's places that have no guns that are completely different culture, okay? Completely riddled with crime. So
maybe it was a coincidence, right? Now, please understand that I understand that Australia and America are two vastly different cultures with different people, right? I get it. In Australia, we had the biggest massacre on earth. The Australian government went, that's it, no more guns. And we all went, yeah, right then, that seems...
Yeah, you look like a little kid that he messes up with something, and dad's like, no, you gotta stop. And you're like, okay. Instead of, okay, no, Dad, can you teach me what I did wrong? All right? Can we figure out why I made this mistake? I punched this kid in the head. I shouldn't have punched him in the head. So can we train? Can we figure out how I can keep my hands to myself? I can keep my hands to myself until I really need them. I punched him without cause. I was bullying this kid. Dad, can you train me how to be a man? Can you train me so I don't use these tools to do harm? Can you teach me how to use it to defend myself, to defend my family, and not use it to go and harm other people? You Australians, you guys gave up your freedoms just like that. You don't have a total freedom of speech. You say something, just like in Germany, you say something out of line the government doesn't agree with. Just like in Britain, there was a woman that was talking about a rap song with a friend that died, and she was put over $300 community service. So these places that the left tries to push are places to look up to. They are not these bastions of freedom that they seem to be. Like Vivek Ramaswamy says, the Second Amendment puts the teeth in all other amendments. There's all these countries out here that have so-called constitutions like the United States, but they don't have a Second Amendment. And then the left is going to come out and say, oh, no one's going out there and fighting. No one's going out there and fighting the government. No one's going out there to do that, this and that. Because guess what? Having firearms is a deterrence against tyranny. You don't have to use them. Like the CDC, 600,000 lives are saved, and a lot of them, firearms didn't even have to be used. They were just merely brandished. It's the same thing with a tyrannical government fact, okay? Because they're going to have to send people to your house to execute these things, and those people are people with families. They don't want to die. So during diseases where they can just round everybody up like in all these other countries, they can't do that in America. They can't do that in the United States. They can't just force their will upon you. It's not about citizens going out and seeking it.
Fair enough, really.
Then he's going to try to make fun of the United States and be like, we have massacres and the government's, well, maybe we'll take these guns away or something like that, man. Come on.
Now, in America, you have the Sandy Hook massacre where little tiny children died, and your government went, maybe we'll get rid of the big guns?
I heard the same thing on that Steven Crowder video where the guy Steven was reviewing was like, oh, the big guns, this and that. Like, hunting rifles shoot way bigger calibers than so-called assault weapon calibers, and then they can say rate of fire, but there's some old school war, like the M14, for example. They had that in full auto, okay? Back in the day, they had that in full auto. And that has a decently high fire rate. It's a very large caliber. A lot bigger, 308. It's a lot bigger. It's a lot more powerful than a 5.56. So when they try to say they explode, they eviscerate, they do all these things, and then they try to say, oh, you're not gonna go hunting with 5.56 because it eviscerates, does all these things. Okay, bullets are designed to kill. Okay, so depending on the round, if it's a hollow point, if it's an FMJ, or what the round is designed to, there's different variations in each caliber and what the different model of the round. So you could have a 9mm that is going right through the person, or you could have a 9mm that's expanding, hollow point. Try to make fun of our government, or at least the ones, the politicians that are at least trying to defend our Second Amendment, saying, oh yeah, we might just take a look at something. So you got to take a look at all these leftist politicians and these comedians, where they're getting funding from, because why are people like Piers Morgan, Trevor Noah, and all these people coming over to our country telling us how to live our lives, telling us what we can and can't do? So you want to take the guns so bad, why don't they send you and your cohorts to be the ones that come and take them instead of risking innocent people's lives?
And 50% of you went, fuck you, don't take my guns! So
Yeah, you're right, because we have a Second Amendment here, all right? In Australia, you can barely they're starting to have legislation on airsoft guns. In Canada, they just haven't legislation on certain BB guns, okay? Because they don't want you. There's a whole global agenda going on to disarm nations, so whatever is coming will inevitably have no resistance behind it, all right?
Here's where it gets confusing, right? Now, as I said, I'm all for your Second Amendment rights.
He says he's all for a Second Amendment and then spouts all this nonsense off.
I think you should be able to have guns. It's in your Constitution. What I am not for is bullshit arguments and lies. There is one argument and one argument alone for having a gun, and this is the argument. Fuck off. I like guns.
I know he's a comedian, but it's just ridiculous. I rarely ever hear that argument, okay? Rarely ever hear that argument. What I hear is a well-regulated militia being necessary for the security of a free state. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. It's in our Constitution. We don't need a reason to own firearms. Another one, self-defense. So the first and actual real reason it was created was against a tyrannical government. It's in our Declaration of Independence. So when people say it's not, it's literally in the Declaration of Independence. Stop watching CNN. Stop watching leftist media and even some conservative media. Go do your own research and research the historical context. And then you'll get scholars and people like that saying, oh, it was for military service, this, and that. The militia consists of individuals. There was no King George Armory that came out and said, oh, all of you, we're arming all of you. No. The individual, I'm pretty sure it was Patrick Henry, it is essential for every man to be armed. Okay, just look at the Founding Fathers, what they said. They put it in there for a reason. It said shall not be infringed, and somehow we got to a point where it's been infringed. Thousands of gun laws have been made. Okay, that's already one thing. Well-regulated militia, okay, they try to say that it's regulated by the government, so they just had fought off a tyrannical government. It didn't mean regulated by the government. It mean well-trained, meaning well-functioning in those days. They just had fought off a tyrannical government. It wasn't about against, they just had fought off a tyrannical government, okay? They weren't just about to make it and be like, oh, we just had fought off this tyrannical government. We're making all these safeguards against tyrannical government, freedom of speech, the right of the press, all these things. And then, oh, the Second Amendment, it's just for the government to form their militia, to use it how they see fit. No, it's about the duty of the people, because the people themselves became the militia to abolish the tyrannical government. And if the people didn't have individual firearms, if the farmers, if the writers, if the storekeepers didn't come together with their rifles that they had in private possession, they wouldn't be able to. They didn't go to the King George Armory, and King George didn't hand out brown besses to all of them and said, yep, we're gonna have equal ground here. We're gonna hand out all these weapons so you can have them out of the armory. Like now how we have our state militias, where they have armories and stuff like that, and you join up. Back in those times, it was consisted of the individual supplied his own equipment. Just like in ancient Rome, with the Roman Republic before it became a corrupt empire, before the Marian reforms, before they started letting in all of these different groups of people, when it was just a plebeian, patrician class, the Republican era, with the Hastati, the Triarii, okay, they supplied their own equipment.
It's not the best argument, but it's all you've got.
And we don't even need arguments, okay? If you stand by the Second Amendment, we don't even need arguments. Benjamin Franklin said if you're willing to give up freedom over safety, you deserve neither. Eisenhower said if you want 100% safety, put you behind a jail cell. Because if you get 100% safety, you try to save every life, you'll have no freedom left. You go behind a jail cell, put everybody in a prison, and then they'll all be safe.
And there's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing wrong with saying, I like something, don't take it away from me. But don't give me this other bullshit. The main one is, I need it for protection. I need to protect me. I need to protect my family.
I love how everyone's just laughing at that. That's so funny. I bet you have armed guards, my guy.
Really?
These same people saying this, like Swalwell, Senator Swalwell, Biden, all of these people pushing for gun control all have armed guards with AR-15s with 30-round magazines.
Why they're called assault rifles, is it? Never heard of these fucking protection rifles you speak of? Protection? What the fuck are you talking about? You have a gun in your house, you're 80% more likely to use that gun on yourself than to shoot someone else. And people think, well, that'll never happen to me. You don't know that, because you know what? From time to time, we all get sad.
suicide is bad in this country, okay? But we live in a country where free men have rights. We have rights to decide things for ourselves. The government doesn't decide it for us, all right? That's the beauty of the United States of America. That's why I love this country so much. And that's why I make these videos. Because I'm sick and tired of the left. And I'm sick and tired of some of the right playing with the left and dumbing down what the Second Amendment really is for. It's not for sports shooting. And it's not for hunting, fishing. It's all of those things combined. The main reason it's created is against the tyrannical government. It's in the Declaration of Independence. It is clear when you look at the historical context, okay? There wasn't a military, there wasn't a country for there to be military service for, pretty much, at that time. It wasn't formally recognized yet, okay? So it was the people gathering together with their individual firearms that they had, that King George wanted to come take the moment he wanted to put the rebellion down. That is why Hitler took all the guns from you-know-who, but didn't take them from, he had lax laws on his own people. And it's just like how the politicians seem to like to be protected by those very weapons, and then tell us we can't have them. And you got all these people saying, I'm going to make another video of some of these other talk show hosts. They say, there's no good guy with a gun that saves a bad guy, that kills a bad guy with a gun. So what's a police officer? Isn't a police officer a good guy with a gun? So you're trying to say the police officer is not a good guy with a gun? He went through 6 months of academy training, okay? There's some concealed carry holders actually in some areas have a higher % chance of hitting their target than a police officer, okay? Because they're training more. A lot of police officers actually very rarely shoot their firearm until they have to requalify. You buy a duty pistol that has just been broken in at that point because it's barely been shot, okay? Unless those officers are going off on their free time doing it. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm not going to go through the whole entire video here. This is my take on this Australian comedian's review on gun control, just pretty much making fun of America, making fun of us. Ladies and gentlemen, like, comment, subscribe for more. Hit that bell notification to see more videos. I'm going to be reviewing more videos on these gun control topics. I'm going to go over Trevor Noah. I might actually do a commentary reaction on Steven Crowder's video, one of the shorter clips, and just give my take, kind of like if I'm in the conversation myself, just like giving more topics that I just have on my head. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, Nicholas Renner, I'll see you on the next one.
From New York to LA, east to the west.